How's it going, YouTube? We're bringing you guys another Digimon BT7 deck profile. This is going to be what I like to call Sierra Mist or Yellow Blue Hybrid. We run a Yellow Hybrid main package with a Blue base package, just to kind of make use of a few options. And there's a few other different techs that you can go over, but we'll get over that in the deck profile. But before we hop into the deck profile, I want to go ahead and just let it be known that this will probably be the last BT7 deck profile. I know it's late into the format, not everybody's trying to pick up a new deck for the last little bit, but this is kind of just a little spicy deck if you guys want to have a little bit of a mix-up. Maybe your locals don't really want to play the meta stuff, or maybe there's a bunch of people at your locals playing meta and you don't want to play meta, you want to play something off, just to, you know, keep the format a little fresh until the end of the format, into the BT7 format. Don't worry, we will be having some more BT8 deck profiles for the future, some little early builds of stuff that I'm going to go over, but for now, this is probably be the last BT7 one, unless you guys really want to see a Machine Dramon list. If you guys want to know, see that, just leave it down in the comments below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the deck profile for Sierra Mist hybrids. So guys, first and foremost, we always have our eggs. We play 4 copies of Demi-Vmon. Now, you may be wondering, why Demi-Vmon? Well, it's because of the only rookie we play is, and I'll go ahead and show it off, is 4 copies of Vmon. It's the best thing to pair with it. If you're gonna run a Vmon, then you run Demi-Vmon. If you run something else more meta-dependent, then switch out the Vmon to something else, and then you would change this egg. What I mean by that is, if you're not gonna run the Vmon and you think, what is my biggest matchup that I have to worry about? And most of the time, it's Blue Hybrid. If you're gonna run something like Blue Hybrid, you would take this out, maybe put in like Madoki, maybe 4 Madoki or 3 Madoki Betamon and a Siakomon, just to kind of give you access to those memory blockers. That's just really a meta call. If you're not gonna see any of that at like your locals or something like that, or I don't think there's any more big events for the format, you might want to switch that up to Madoki. I personally just like Vmon. He's a big bungus in a sense that he has jamming, and unless you hit an option card or something on security, he's going to be around, and it's going to make it so your opponent has to answer him. Not only does it give free security checks, he's a small little 2k DP guy, but he has jamming, but also on top of a Demi-Vmon, he has an extra draw, so he's just all around very much a problem for your opponent, and unless they have some way to deal with it, they might have to commit a trade or commit a swing that you can then make benefit of by like swinging over it the following turn or something like that. Again, this can be swapped out. This also can cause a liability if it gets stuck on the field, like you say, if you're playing Blue Hybrid and it gets source stripped, and then all of a sudden I'm not going to worry about, your opponent's not going to worry about swinging into this because they have it frozen. We have a way around that. It's not in this list, but I am going to go over it. This is a very early list, has a bunch of options that you can switch up with, but I just wanted to kind of go over, if I can jam Vmon into a deck, I'm going to jam Vmon into a deck. So now, we'll go into the rest of our level 3s that we have. We just have 3 copies of Pokemon. This card can kind of bite you in the butt because we have a bunch of cards that necessarily aren't hybrid stuff. It's Yellow Hybrid, but it still helps you find all your pieces. But I still like running the Pokemon. It is free Evo. You get that little bit of extra aggression that way. We run a few things that make it so that any little bit of memory manipulation that we can get really helps, and Pokemon is just great memory manipulation for any hybrid-based deck. And then, like I said, he lets you dig 5, so you can find your pieces if you're struggling sometimes. So I only run 3. I know some Yellow Hybrid lists run 4, but this isn't your typical Yellow Hybrid list, and it can also make benefit of other cards. So now, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into our Yellow Hybrids. I'm just going to go ahead and lay out our level 4 hybrids here. 4 copies of Kazemon, 4 copies of Zephyrmon. You have to run them. I mean, these are your only... The one weakness, I would say, that Yellow Hybrid, just the same as Purple Hybrid has, is we're really limited. Black Hybrid too, to an extent, but they got shafted in a whole bunch of ways. We won't talk about that. But this is your limiting factor for a lot of your plays. If you don't see some of these, you're in trouble. Like, it doesn't matter if you can get up into your top end. If you don't see this little connector piece, unless you have to hard play something, then this is really an issue. So you absolutely max out on these. Zephyrmon gives you the extra DP to your security, has come up. You'd be surprised. Most people are like, oh, that's not going to really do anything. Absolutely does. That extra 3k DP, especially if it's on top of a Zoe, is extra 6k, and this is a lingering effect. So even if this Digimon gets deleted before the security checks, this will last until the end of your opponent's next turn. So we run all of these. Zephyrmon is, of course, the one you want the most, but sometimes you just have to run all 8. And then next up, we'll go into our level 4 or 5s. We run, of course, the best level 5 in the deck, Jet Sylphimon. If there's a Tamer, you cheat it in for, or you digivolve it for 1, and then you get to recover 1. So for 1 memory, sometimes, or especially if you have something like a Pokemon, for 1 memory, you can just go into it, recover 1. It's always great to have. You always want this. I have made it so where sometimes you want to hold on to this. Sometimes you have issue recycling this. Like you can't really naturally get stuff back from the trash. You only run 4. Maybe you want to see more. Again, we have a few ways to deal with that. Not in this list. I am going to go over some meta options and some few different things. This was a very basic list when I first posted it, and it's on in the few matches that I've shown with it, but I do want to go over some options that you can really adjust later on that make it so where you can get this Jet Sylphimon back a little bit easier and make use of it a little bit more than most yellow hybrids might be able to. Next up, we do run 2 copies of RyzeGreymon. This card, in regular yellow hybrids, if you're going to play Yerple, you're going to be yellow-purple hybrids, I would not run this card. I would focus mainly on your Jet Sylphimon. You can run this card. Like, don't get me wrong, you can run this card. But this card, it gives and takes. You know, usually you want to cheat your Jet Sylphimon and then go into something like Dynasmon. Now you have an annoying thing that you have to deal with Dynasmon. But in this version of the list, because of how I'm playing it, it's a very much more aggressive version. Out of the Vmon, kind of showing that off because I'm swinging in with the Vmon. I'm not sitting it there with like a Madoki effect. We're going to use this to help us progress our board state a little bit, you know, play a Tamer, and then you get the extra security attack +1 if you have 3 or more Tamers in play. So you have to play aggressive at the same time, but you have to think about how you're going to play this deck, because if you can get this RyzeGreymon down there and it's not going to get stripped, or you're not worried about it getting stripped or something like that, then you can play out an extra Tamer to help make this a little bit easier to get into, you know, especially if you're at lower security. Then if you have like your best played off of this effect, since you don't get on play effects, is going to be something like your TK Kari. You play out your TK Kari, you have a TK, you're at less security, you're at 5 memory the next turn, and then you're able to go into something else without passing turn. Or you can set up another Tamer and then use one of the other options that we're using in this list to keep it your turn, to then go into something else that gets the extra security attack. And I'll kind of go over what those something else's are in here in a second, because this is going to be the last of our level 5s. But I run 2. You don't have to see it because Jet Sylphie is always really good, but when you do see this and you can pull off this combo, it really is super, super nice. So on to our level 6s. This is kind of the things that pair well with RyzeGreymon, more so than they do with Jet Sylphimon. We don't run super passive things. We don't run any Dynasmon into the list. But instead, we run things like 3 copies of RyzeGreymon. So RyzeGreymon's just incredible. If any of you know BT4 card, he was a meta menace. He was super, super strong around them. On attack, you can unsuspend him by adding the top card of your security to your hand, and then you get to give one of your opponent's Digimon Neg 6. So Neg 6 is just really, really strong. Helps you deal with some of the Korikakumons and other bodies and stuff like that. It gives you a little bit more progression. Sure, you have to burn your own security, but we have ways around that as well with some of the other things, and we're playing very, very aggressive. You know, as long as they can't OTK us or remove us that way, then that little extra security shred might not be the worst thing ever. And then if you have it paired with something like your RyzeGreymon, then this is a swing restand. Yeah, he's only 11k, so you have to worry about some of the bigger bodies, especially against blue stuff. They're going to run stuff like Azulongmon or Magnagarurumon, but this is a lower end format, so there's a lot of times he just lives. But you get extra to a security attack if you have a Tamer in play, if you have the RyzeGreymon underneath. So this is a potential 4 checks if you can live all of them. So super strong card. I like to run it. It gives me a reason to run my 3 Altarts that I got back in BT7 and never played the deck. So, or BT4, not BT7. So we run that. Again, hyper aggression. Speaking of aggression, this is a sleeper card that I feel like more people should play. I guess at the beginning it was sleeper, but most people have kind of learned a little bit now. You should definitely run the Seraphimon in regular yellow hybrid list, but in this list particular, it is super strong, because if you can get this guy out, of course on Evo he gives you a recover, but if you can get this guy out with a RyzeGreymon in source, he's swinging for 3 checks. Yes, being at 10k is kind of a drawback, but he has a powerful effect in my opinion, where he gets an extra security attack and a recover on Evo. So it's a little bit of a balance, and he's only a 3 cost to Evo. You know, they'd probably make him 11 or 12 if he would have been a 4 cost, but this is just adds to the aggression. You can just climb into this super quickly with something like a Pokemon and a Memory Tamer on the field, and then you're able to go into this, and I've had it happen plenty of times where I was able to play down a Memory Tamer. I was playing another hybrid list. They increased my memory up back to 4, and I was able to just go go up, you know, Memory Tamer into Memory Tamer on their end, and then you're able to just go up into a Jet Sylphie for 3 memory effectively from your Tamer into this, and then all of a sudden you start your third turn with 7 security. Very strong play. Yes, it can be dealt with, but at the same time, I really do like Seraphimon. Now, another card is the last level 6 we have in the list. This card, in my opinion, is a sleeper card, but it is very strong in the right circumstances. This is EX01 Magnadramon. So, what this is when Digivolving, you may trash the top card of your security to unsuspend this Digimon. This is high risk, high reward card right here. So the reason why that is you can go into your Jet Sylphimon and then swing with your Jet Sylphimon. This card really gets the main benefit if you're going to play aggressive like that. Maybe it's the risky play. Maybe you're going to lose next turn. You really need the Jet Sylphimon. You need that extra swing in. So you have to swing with that Jet Sylphimon. So it lives. Digivolve into this. Trash the top card of your security. Of course, you have to have security to do this. And then you unsuspend it. And then, when attacking, if you have 3 or less security, you get to recover 1. So it's higher risk, high reward if you swing in with that Jet Sylphimon and live. Or another good play is to maybe swing over a Digimon, and then you're able to Digivolve into your Jet Sylphimon into this. So then you don't have to worry about losing the Jet Sylphimon as easily. So this has actually saved me in a few games. Just being able to Digivolve into this, get that little extra security check off, get that extra damage. Maybe to just Digivolve on top of it to swing Jet Sylphie over something and swing this over something else. Anything. This card is really good. I want to bump it up, but RyzeGreymon is just super, super strong. So I didn't want to do like a 2-2-2 split. So I'm just running a 3-2-1. So really do enjoy this card. Next up, 1 copy of Susanoo-amon. This is something that a lot of people are probably not surprised to see. I am running a yellow hybrid list, but I'm usually not grinding out the game, so Susanoo-amon doesn't come up quite as often as some yellow hybrid lists. But if you do play an opposing yellow hybrid list, the games can go long, so Susanoo-amon is just very good that way. I like to run 1 of in this. I, for the longest time, only had 1 extra copy. I had the others in a few other lists, but now I have plenty of copies, but I still just like the 1 of. Like I said, you use it in the yellow hybrid list, and almost every game I've played with it, it somehow ends up in security, so it almost doesn't even matter. Now, next on, we're going to go to our Tamers. We run 4 copies of Zoe. 4 copies of Zoe's is pretty standard, lets you find your pieces from security, and it's a good Evo target since I have an Evo on top of something like your TKs and Karis. We run 4 copies of TK Kari. This is one of the best Tamers in the list. That extra 1k can actually come up very often, especially if you want to get just an extra draw off of something like your Vmon. In the last video, I did a little bit of a misplay where I could have kept a Vmon instead of crashing into it if I would have just remembered to use this effect before. So this card actually comes up. You can't suspend it and use this effect if you're swinging of the Vmon, but if you have another yellow hybrid on list that you can, or yellow Digimon, sorry, that you can make use of this, and then you can go into plays like that. Very good card. I run it as a 4 because I definitely really want the memory gain, and a lot of the times I can make it live. There is decent recovery, but I can usually make this live because I can burn myself down. And then 3 copies of TK. I know some people may like, well, do you want to run 4 copies, you know, to try to find all your pieces from security? No, we run blue cards and a couple of and several white cards, and this card can kill you. And yes, it's good to get your memory tamer, but usually the TK Karis can get you that little extra memory as well, unless your opponent plays around it, which is possible, and TK will help out. But that's why I like to run 3. 3 pops up enough, and it doesn't pop up when I don't need it to pop up. So this is the list. You know, it's a little bit less. I've seen a bunch of lists run more, but they also run like stuff like the TK Karis. So maybe 11 Tamer seems a little low, but I've usually never struggled too much with it. So that is it for our Tamers. Next, we're going to go into our options. We're going to run 3 copies of Wyvern's Breath. So Wyvern's Breath is, you know, it's still yellow hybrid. There's a good chance you can get into security off of recovery or off of your initial security. So it's always good to have it in there to just take out a big body. It stops the Susanoo-amon unless they have something that buffs the Susanoo-amon. I don't know many things that have that in hybrid meta unless you evolve on top of it that gives it an effect. Either way, this is always good to have in security. I don't cap out on it because I'm not really playing a heavy security control-y style build. A little bit more aggressive, as I've mentioned before. So 3 copies is still good. And then next up, we get into the little bit of the spice of the list. This is going to be our blue options. We're running a blue base, so we can run blue options. I'm just going to go ahead and lay them all out. We run 4 copies of Spark, 3 copies of Howling Memory Boost, and 1 copy of Ice Wall. This originally started off as me just being a way to jam in Vmon into a deck to make it a little bit more aggressive, along with using an aggressive top into yellow hybrids. Hammer Spark enables a lot of extra plays. Like I mentioned earlier, if they start you off with like 3 memory, or if you have 5 memory without a Bokomon, then you can Digivolve one of your Tamers into a Jet Sylphie, or into a hybrid, go to 3, into a Jet Sylphie, go to 1, recover 1, pop a Spark since you have your yellow baby or a Vmon on the field, go up to 3, Digivolve into your Seraphimon. Now you've easily recovered up to the point where Seraphimon gets a little bit of extra damage, and then you have the body on field. You can swing in for your 2 checks without passing turn. Howling Memory Boost is coming super clutch in general because it also just freezes another Digimon blue hybrid. It's not the only people that can freeze Digimon. A lot of people have been running with like a Sprite, or Sierra Mist, whatever you kind of want to call it. Baja Blast, I think, is what Tyler called it in a recent video, where you run a green base or a green hybrid with a blue base, so you can use stuff like Howling Memory Boost in the blue rookies. Also very strong. And then Ice Wall is just the one up. I don't think you need this card half the time. It is super nice, but I don't think you have to have this card. Most of the time it just doesn't come up. It ends up in security with the amount of recovery you have, and you never want to take it out of security with the TK effect because you just don't get the recover most of the time. But I guess sometimes it can come up, so I do play it. But with all that being said, these are super nice option effects and option cards, but there's a few things that I did want to go over. They're not going to be in sleeves just because they're extra cards that I had laying around, but I wanted to go over some options that could really, really work well in this list if you're going to try this list out for yourself. The first one is Forbidden Trident. Now, this is a card that a lot of people have seen in yellow hybrid list, or in a blue hybrid list, I'm sorry, where it's a 1 cost. Security effect is added to your hand, but one of your Digimon gets 2k, and then when attacking, you can return opponent's level 3 Digimon to its owner's hand. So the reason why this is very strong is because there's a lot of pesky level 3s to deal with, you know, your memory blockers, your Siakomons, your Digivolution reducers, and stuff like that. And this is very low investment. And also, the fact that it is a 1 cost means if you pair it with something like the Seraphimon into your into the security check, Seraphimon's only 10k, you can bump him up to 12k, and it keeps him a little bit bigger, so there's a less chance of him dying to a security effect and getting that. And dying to a just bigger Digimon. And then also you get to bounce a pesky rookie that you don't want to deal with, even if it's just like to bounce the rookie that could possibly end the game just by having the body on board. This is a really good card. I think you could easily fit this in. But I don't have it in the list early build. These are all things that I thought of afterwards, after I threw the deck together. So, but if you want to try it out, definitely try out Forbidden Trident. That's a good one. The next up, this is going to be the one that pairs well with the Jet Sylphimon and the Vmon. Let's say you want to recycle the Jet Sylphimon, or you don't want to leave that Vmon on board. You have Aqua Viper. Aqua Viper is a super strong card in the fact that with the Vmon on board being a sitting duck, going to give your opponent a bunch of memory off of the mats or the Sorajos, you can just bounce it back to hand to bounce 2 of your opponent's level 4s or lowers back to their hands. So this is really good to help recycle your Vmon so that you can Digivolve at the next turn if you are missing the Vmon and you want that little bit of extra draw. Or it's also good just to remove bodies, and it helps you play around Sorajo very well. So I really do like this card. I, again, haven't been playing it. I played that list for that tournament with the video that I won, and then I just haven't gotten around back to refining this list. Been practicing some BT8 stuff. But if you want to try it out, definitely find some room for some Aqua Viper. Another tech card. This is specifically if you got to keep sideboards more, in my opinion. It's hard to fit it in the main list, but a Supreme Cannon, it bounces all level 3 or 3k Digimon back to the opponent's hand. If there's a Garurumon, then you get to bounce 5k. We're not worried about that. This is really good against stuff like Diaboromon, pesky decks like that, where they're going to go wide, they're going to have a bunch of 3ks, and then you can just clear the board with that. Like I said, it's more of a, like, specifically if you're going to see those matchups, it's good against Cherubimon too, but at the same time, it's not enough. It's hard to fit it in the main board. If you do, I'd fit it in like a 1-of, whereas you could fit 2 of Aqua Viper and Forbidden Trident in. So, and the last one, this one's just a little spicy thing that I thought of at the last minute. This is Starlight Velocity. This is an extra Tamer for 3 memory, basically. The security effect is terrible, so that's the only reason I didn't want to run it, period. But it's if you have it in hand and it doesn't come out of security, then you get to go ahead and play a Tamer from underneath one of your Digimon for a play cost of 3 effectively. So you get to replay out a TK if you don't want to lose the TK. You get to replay out a TK Kari if you don't want to lose that. So it's a little fun thing like that. This card does not specify a color, so you can just play out, you know, like I said, your TK Kari, or if you just want to replay out the Zoe, anything like that. It's a fun little interaction. It's a little janky, but it helps to recycle, since this list does run a little bit lower on your hybrid or your tamer counts compared to some yellow hybrid lists where that usually run like the 12 or more tamers or something like that. This one works just to help play out this stuff. So I just kind of wanted to go over a few of these other options that you could play. There's probably a few more that you could really work, but these were the big 4 that I thought of. These 2 are the best 2 to fit in, I think, while these are just kind of extra. So but with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. If you did enjoy this deck profile, go ahead, leave a comment on the video, or like the video. Leave a comment down below if there's any other thing that maybe you thought about adding into this Sierra Mist deck profile. And if you did like the content in general, just be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll have more deck profiles for the BT8 format. Like I said, if you guys want to see the Machinedramon deck profile, I can show that off to you maybe sometime later this week or this weekend. But until then, we're just going to have some BT8. We're going to have a few more gameplay videos until then, but I'm going to try to really get hyped for the BT8 format. So all that being said, again, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. If you guys did enjoy, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell if it's there, leave a like on the video, comment down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.